11s, and also some of the maybe ambitious year 10s, to have a look at how they can make a head start to A-level maths, since the school year has been somewhat cut short this year. So I'm going to go through a few things today. First of all, I'm going to look at A-level mathematics specification and assessment. Now I'm going to put A-level third maths to one side, because that's a completely different story, and I want to focus on the qualification that the majority of people take. I'm only going to look at Pearson and Excel rather than other exam boards. Other exam boards will have their own A-level specifications, but I'm most familiar with Edexcel, and it seems that most of the schools actually use that board. So this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between GCSE mathematics and A-level mathematics, because there's quite a bit of a jump. And then I will give you some tips as to what topics to revise before you actually start A-level math, to make sure that you are confident in those key topics. So a little bit about me. I'm Kat. I'm a qualified and experienced teacher with a DBS certificate. I offer one-to-one lessons and also group classes, including A-level classes for a variety of qualifications. And obviously, probably watching this on my page, I post a lot of useful stuff on here. So like the page if you'd like some maths tips and maths activities. Okay, let's get going. So let's have a look at the assessment itself first. So as you can see, there is an A-level mathematics qualification. There is also AS level mathematics qualification, and they separate. In the past, you would do AS and then you would do A-level next year, and AS would count towards A-level. It doesn't happen anymore. They are two different qualifications. So if you just want to do a little bit of extra maths after you finish GCSEs, you might want to do just AS levels. But if you want to carry on for 2 years, then A-level mathematics is the one that you want to go for. And I suppose you can make the decision as you go through the course. So if it feels a little bit challenging, maybe too challenging to carry on for 2 years, then go for AS maths instead. So if you look at A-level proper, so to say, 3 papers, 2 papers focus on pure maths, and they are both calculators. They're 2 hours long, 100 marks each, and then we have the applied part of maths with statistics and mechanics. And it's a single exam with 2 sections, one for stats, one for mechanics. Now, you will find that a lot of teachers teach only one of those components. So you might have a pure maths teacher and then applied maths teacher. I personally just teach pure maths. I'm not a big fan of statistics and mechanics. I'm not an expert on those, so I stick to pure maths. So you might find that in your school or Sixth College, you will have actually 2 teachers doing maths. Okay, so this is what it looks like broadly. As I said, AS level mathematics is a separate qualification. It's sort of a stripped version of A-level, and there are only 2 papers, one for pure, one for applied. Now, in terms of content, there's quite a lot of topics in both sections, but what you will see is that some of them are actually familiar, at least the name of the topic. So for pure, you would have done proof in the past. You would have done algebra and functions in the past. You would have done coordinate geometry, so geometry of coordinates essentially. You would have done sequences. You would have done trigonometry and vectors. The new things would be exponentials and logarithms, differentiation, integration, and numerical methods. So these are the things that would be completely new, with the exception of differentiation. If you've done IGCSEs, you would have done differentiation, at least the basics of it. So there's a lot of familiar stuff in pure maths at A-level. It will be extended. And then if we move on to apply, I think this is where the most of sort of new stuff will come in, because Statistics is a small part of GCSEs, and it's a bit of a bigger part for A levels. You would have done work on probability, and you would have done work on data, so it won't be all new, but a lot of things will be new. And then in mechanics, some of the mechanics topics you would have encountered in GCSE physics. So kinematics, forces, and Newton's laws, you would have done that. But obviously at A level will just be extended and more complex, requiring more thinking. So this is what the specification looks like. Now, in terms of the differences, first of all, obviously A-level maths is much harder content than GCSE mathematics. And because of that, it requires more independent study. So that's probably the biggest difference, that you only get so many hours of A-levels, and A-level students often find themselves with a lot of hours to spare during the day. But these hours need to be filled with independent study. So your teacher will be able to help you how to make a timetable of your independent work. But it's really important to come to A-level maths with a mindset that actually you need to do extra work on your own beyond the homework that your teacher might set you. So that's probably something that you might struggle with to start with, because GCSE maths and secondary schooling is quite prescriptive, and you just do what you're told, whereas for A-levels you would just need to figure out a lot of what you need to do and when. Now, on the back of it, exam questions tend to be more time-consuming and attract more marks. So what I mean by that, if you think back to GCSE questions, if you got a 5-marker, that was a really big question. Whereas in A-level exam, it's not uncommon to see a 10-mark question. So there will be just loads more exam work involved in answering those questions. And because of that, you will need to have a more advanced calculator. So if you had a calculator at A-levels, you probably need, sorry, at GCSEs, you will need a better one for A-levels. But as again, your teacher will advise you as to what is the best one. And finally, something that is not a common kind of question at GCSEs, a modelling question and interpretation, which is a big part of A-level. So sometimes in GCSEs you would have encountered questions that, for example, had a graph, and you had to say, right, what does this gradient mean in terms of the question? So you had to kind of interpret the maths, what it means for real life. Now, for A-levels, it's much more important, and it's a skill in itself. So as you go through the specification of different topics, there will always be a modelling question that requires some sort of interpretation. So you will learn that during the A-level course. Now, as far as the skills are concerned, now I put algebra in really big letters here. So this is one part of maths that you need to have perfect fluency in to be successful at A-level maths. You can actually get a pretty good grade at GCSEs without a very strong grasp of algebra. So now, with some time to spare, is the perfect time to actually look at algebra, because pretty much everything that is in the course requires you to have a really good command of algebra. And this is what my students in the past struggled with, not being able to perform simple and routine algebraic operations without taking just far too long. So in terms of topics, specific topics, I would look at lots of indices, including negative and fractional indices. Indices come up on A-level, and it's really important that you understand them. That's a straight GCSE topic, so you all should be able to do it. So this is another one. In A-level maths, we like to be exact, And if you want to be exact, you need to know how to work with surds. Thirdly, factorizing quadratics. So quadratics are a big part of A-level mathematics. So you need to be able to factorize them efficiently. That includes the difference of two squares, so how to spot it. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how to do that actually. Algebraic fractions, again, that actually links together factorizing and fractions. And you just need to be really fluent with these. Calculating the square, which is a part of GCSE maths and causes a lot of trouble to a lot of students. It is a little bit of a tricky method, but it's really important that you know how to do it. And finally, the quadratic formula. That's really important that you remember it, that you know how to use it, and that you don't mistake while trying to put this in a calculator. Okay, so what I would like us to have a look at now is to actually answer some questions. So if you want to do it with me or completely on your own, that's up to you. So I've picked these questions, all these questions from a Pearson and Excel Year 1 pure textbook, which is this one. And they are mostly from the first part of the book, which is largely a recap of GCSEs, aiming to gain this algebraic fluency. But I think just studying GCSEs, you should be able to answer this question. So let's have a look at that first one. I have extra two later. Express 27 to the power of 2x plus 1 in the form 3 to the power of y, stating y in terms of x. Now that is a lot of mathematical words. Express in the form, stating y in terms of x. What it simply means is write this so it looks somewhat like that. So if we think about 27, 27 can be written as a power of 3. It can be written as 3 to the power of 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Now this 27 is raised to the power of 2x plus 1. So instead of 27, I'm going to write 3 cubed. And then that 27, which I've rewritten as a 3 to the power of 3, is to the power of 3x plus 2x plus 1. Now what we need to do is tidy this up because we want to have a nice expression for y. So you might remember, I'm going to just write note, that if we had 4 to the power of 3 to the power of 2, we would multiply the indices together. So that will be 4 to the power of 6. So we are going to do exactly the same here. We are going to multiply 3 by 2x plus 1. So we are going to have 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times 1 is 3. So 27 to the power of 2x plus 1 is the same as 3 to the power of 6. 6x plus 3, so y equals 6x plus 3. So again, this is a A-level question. I think it's perfectly doable for a GCSE student. It just shows that you have a really good command of index laws. Right, two more that I'm going to go through. One on surds. Surds are notorious and students do not like surds. I'm not sure why. I absolutely love surds, but students hate surds. But you need to get used to them. So we're going to simplify this fully. As you can see, the numbers underneath the square roots are all different. We need to make them the same to be able to simplify. So we're going to simplify square root of 20. That's like, let me do it on the side. Square root of 20 is the same as square root of 4 times 5. I can square root 4. That's 2 plus 5. Done. Second one, we have root 45. Now we can write it as 9 times root 9 times 5. Again, square root the 9. That means leaves us with 3 root 5, but we have 2 lots of this. So instead of 3 root 5, we'll have 6 root 5. And then we're going to take away 18. Doesn't look like it might have a square factor. It does. It has 16. So square root of 80 can be written as 16 times 5. That's actually really handy to remember that 16 goes into 80. Comes up a lot. So that's 4 root 5. And I'm just going to simplify this. So I'll have 8 root 5 minus 4 root 5 is 4 root 5. You could do it in one go if you wanted, or you can do it in steps to show you're working. So done. Very simple question. 2 marks on A levels. Probably worth about 3 or even maybe 4 on GCSEs. So we're stepping up. Less marks for the same work. Okay, and finally, let's have a look at factorizing. Now, you do not factorize cubics in GCSEs, but actually you're perfectly able to factorize this one. So let's just look at it in the simplest terms. Factorizing means taking out a common factor. There's an x and x cubed, so x is a common factor. This is what I'm going to take out. X bracket 1 minus 64 x squared. Now, this is not fully or completely factorized yet. What you need to do is to have a look at that 1 minus 64x squared and think, can we actually factorize this further? And we can. So if you think about 1 and 64x squared, both of these are square numbers. So we actually have a difference of 2 squares here. So you might remember, and again, I'm going to do a note here, you've probably seen it as a simpler case like this. And then you would know to factorize it into x minus 5 and x plus 5. So in our question from A levels, same principle, just a little bit harder. So I'll still have this x at the front, and then I'll have 2 brackets for this. Square root of the first number, 1. Square root of the second one number, so we will have 8x. And then put a minus in one bracket and a plus in the other. And that's done. Factor completely. So as you see, A-level questions are not extremely difficult, at least not to start with. And at GCSEs, you are actually able to do them. Right, okay, let's move on. Other topics to look at that might be useful, a little bit algebra still, solving equations and inequalities. That includes linear and quadratic. Simultaneous equations, again, simultaneous equations with x squared in them. Again, really important to get a hang of them. Trigonometry, especially exact values, something that is terribly neglected at GCSEs, I feel. So exact values for sine, cos, and tan of 0, 30, 45, 60, and 90, extremely helpful at A level. And part of trigonometry, of course, sine and cosine rules, which are now taught at GCSEs. Just make sure that you get a good hang of it. And also vectors. Vectors will be made slightly harder at A level, but if you have a good knowledge of basic vectors that you would have done at GCSEs, then you'll be absolutely fine. You'll be able to access them. Okay, so that's it. That's all that I wanted to say today. Share this video with people who might find it useful. Like my Facebook page, I post loads of resources and website and information and pictures that are helpful to students of all ages. And if you feel that you want some extra help and you want to get a start on A levels, I do have online classes for Year 12 material, which would be suitable for you if you are Year 11 thinking of taking A-level maths. On Thursdays and Fridays, Thursdays 12:15 and Fridays at 2:15, they're 40 minutes, £10 for a class. I teach a different topic each time, or we can work one-to-one if you would like that. Okay, I'm just going to check because I didn't see new questions. Fantastic. Well, I hope you are going to have a lovely afternoon. Keep safe, please stay home, and I'm going to speak to you soon, hopefully. Bye.